In 1924, the climbers Andrew Irwin and George Mallory had set out on a pretty ambitious journey to conquer the summit of Mount Everest.
A traffic jam on Mount Everest, long queues of climbers stuck amidst mounds of snow and corpses.
Mount Everest, Chomolungma, Sagarmatha, the roof of the world. For decades, it's been the ultimate symbol of human ambition, a colossal challenge carved from rock and ice. We think we know it, the highest point on Earth, a place of extreme danger and breathtaking beauty. But Everest is more than just a summit to conquer. It's a dynamic, changing entity and a repository of secrets. Recent discoveries, some astonishing, some deeply unsettling, are forcing us to see this iconic mountain in a completely new light. Prepare yourself, because we're about to explore 15 findings on Mount Everest that genuinely change everything we thought we knew. The story begins not with climbers, but with creatures that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. High on Everest's summit pyramid near the very peak at 29,032 feet, climbers and geologists have found something utterly astounding: limestone rock embedded with marine fossils. These aren't just any fossils. They include remnants of trilobites, crinoids, and other small sea creatures. Think about that for a second. Evidence of ancient ocean life resting nearly 9 kilometers above current sea level. This discovery is definitive proof that the towering Himalayas, including Everest itself, were once submerged beneath a vast warm ocean called the Tethys Sea over 250 million years ago. The immense tectonic collision between the Indian and Eurasian plates, a slow-motion crash that began roughly 50 million years ago, buckled the Earth's crust and thrust this former seabed skyward. It's a profound reminder that our planet is constantly reshaping itself, and the most imposing landscapes can have the most unexpected origins. The sheer scale of geological time and force involved is almost impossible to grasp, challenging our human perception of stability. The highest mountain on Earth was once the bottom of the sea. But while Everest holds secrets from deep geological time, it's also revealing more recent and far more grim histories. And you don't need to be a geologist to see this next discovery, you just need to look closely as the ice melts. Global warming isn't just an abstract concept here, it's visibly transforming the mountain. Everest's glaciers, like others worldwide, are shrinking at an alarming rate. As the ice recedes, it's exposing the perfectly preserved bodies of climbers who perished on its slopes decades ago. Over 340 people have died trying to reach the summit, and a significant number, perhaps over 150, remain on the mountain, entombed in the ice. Some have become unintentional landmarks, like the climber known as Green Boots, widely believed to be Sewang Paljor, who died in the 1996 blizzard, whose brightly colored boots marked a spot near the summit path for years. As temperatures rise, bodies like his, once hidden, are reappearing, sometimes shifting position with the moving glacier. It's turning parts of Everest into a thawing high-altitude graveyard. These emerging corpses are stark, frozen reminders of human vulnerability in the face of the mountain's power, and a chillingly direct consequence of our planet's changing climate. The mountain isn't just revealing the past. Human activity is actively creating new problems right now, leading to a crisis you might not associate with such a remote place. With thousands attempting the climb or trekking to base camp each year, Everest is facing a staggering human waste problem. It's estimated that climbers and support staff leave behind roughly 12,000 pounds. That's nearly 5,500 kilograms of human feces on the mountain annually. Much of this is left in shallow pits dug in the snow or even deposited directly onto the ice, particularly at higher camps where carrying waste down is incredibly difficult. Below base camp, waste management is improving, but higher up, the extreme cold prevents natural decomposition. This accumulating waste contaminates the snow and ice, which eventually melts into streams that provide drinking water for downstream communities and climbers lower down. It's a serious biohazard, posing risks of waterborne diseases like dysentery and E. coli infections. The image of a pristine, untouched wilderness clashes violently with the reality of Everest becoming in places a high-altitude toilet, threatening the fragile ecosystem and human health alike. Amidst the waste and the older tragedies, the mountain continues to guard secrets from its most famous early expeditions. Just recently, in October 2024, a dramatic discovery potentially added a huge piece to one of Everest's greatest puzzles. A team filming a National Geographic documentary stumbled upon a boot protruding from the central Rongbuk Glacier. Inside the remarkably preserved leather boot was a foot, and crucially sewn into the sock or boot lining was a name tag, A.C. Irvine. Andrew Sandy Irvine was the climbing partner of George Mallory on their fateful 1924 Everest expedition. The pair vanished high on the mountain during their summit attempt, sparking a century-long debate. Did they reach the top 29 years before Hillary and Norgay? Mallory's body was found in 1999, but Irvine and the Kodak camera he was believed to be carrying remained missing. This discovery of Irvine's remains, preserved by the ice for exactly 100 years, is monumental. While it doesn't definitively answer the summit question yet, it pinpoints his location after separating from Mallory or falling, and intensifies the search for the camera, which might hold the photographic proof of their final moments. The eerie preservation and the enduring mystery make this a haunting find. The fate of climbers like Irvine underscores the inherent lethality of Everest's upper reaches, a danger zone with a chillingly apt name. Above 8,000 meters, or roughly 26,247 feet, lies the infamous death zone. This isn't hyperbole, it's a physiological reality. At this altitude, the atmospheric pressure is so low that the amount of oxygen available in each breath is only about 1/3 of what it is at sea level. Without supplemental oxygen, the human body simply cannot acclimatize. Cells begin to die, judgment becomes severely impaired due to hypoxia, oxygen starvation, and the risk of frostbite, high-altitude cerebral edema, HI-C, and high-altitude pulmonary edema, HAPE, skyrockets. Survival time in the death zone is measured in hours, not days. Even with bottled oxygen, climbers are operating on a knife edge. The infamous 1996 disaster, where a sudden storm trapped multiple teams high on the mountain, resulted in 8 deaths in a single day, highlighting how quickly conditions can turn fatal. The death zone is Everest's ultimate filter, an environment so hostile it acts almost like a natural executioner, utterly indifferent to human skill, experience, or desire. And tragically, the evidence of the death zone's toll isn't always hidden by ice. Sometimes it's starkly visible. Below the final summit push on the northeast ridge route lies an area grimly nicknamed Rainbow Valley. It earned this disturbingly colorful moniker not from any natural phenomenon, but from the brightly colored climbing suits and gear adorning the bodies of climbers who have fallen or perished there. Because retrieving bodies from this extreme altitude is incredibly dangerous, logistically complex, and prohibitively expensive, many who die high on the mountain are left where they fall. Rainbow Valley has become an open, de facto graveyard. Climbers on their way up or down might pass dozens of these frozen figures, clad in the vibrant reds, blues, and yellows of their final expedition gear. It's a macabre and sobering sight, a landscape dotted with the silent, colorful remnants of failed attempts, serving as a constant, visceral reminder of the deadly cost associated with Everest's powerful allure. The jarring contrast between the bright colors and the grim reality is profoundly unsettling. Beyond the human tragedies, the mountain itself seems to be speaking, emitting strange and sometimes alarming sounds. Climbers, particularly those navigating the treacherous Khumbu icefall or spending nights at higher camps, have reported hearing loud, sudden, and often unexplained noises echoing from deep within the glaciers, cracking, groaning, and booming sounds. For years, these were often dismissed or attributed to wind or imagination under duress. However, scientists now understand these noises are very real and directly linked to the accelerating impacts of climate change. As global temperatures rise, Everest glaciers are melting faster, both on the surface and internally. This causes increased instability, leading to ice-shifting, crevasses widening abruptly, and massive blocks of ice, seracs, carving off without warning. The loud reports are the sound of the glacier fracturing under stress, The mountain is literally groaning and cracking apart at an accelerated rate, signaling its own physical distress and making notoriously dangerous sections like the Khumbu icefall even more unpredictable and hazardous for climbers. It's as if the mountain itself is crying out. The impact of human activity isn't just visible in waste or heard in cracking ice, it's reaching Everest in insidious, almost invisible ways. In 2020, a scientific expedition collected snow and stream water samples from various altitudes on Everest, including locations just below the summit in the balcony area, around 8,440 meters. Analysis of these samples revealed a startling discovery: microplastics. These tiny plastic particles, less than 5 millimeters long, were present even in snow collected near the very top of the world. The highest concentration was found around base camp, where more human activity occurs, but their presence near the summit indicates they are being transported by the strong Himalayan winds from lower altitudes, likely originating from climbers' clothing, tents, ropes, and discarded gear, fragmenting over time, or possibly carried from much further afield. This finding shatters the illusion of Everest as a pristine, untouched environment. It demonstrates that human pollution in its most pervasive forms has contaminated even the most remote and seemingly inaccessible places on Earth. Nowhere, not even the roof of the world, is safe. While the 2024 discovery of Irvine's boot reignited a century-old mystery, another find years earlier provided a crucial, albeit somber piece of that same puzzle. In May 1999, the Mallory and Irvine research expedition made a stunning discovery high on the north face of Everest, at an altitude of about 26,760 feet, 8,157 meters. They found the remarkably well-preserved body of George Mallory 75 years after he and Irvine had vanished. Lying face down, partially embedded in scree and snow, his skin was described as white and intact like marble due to the freezing dry conditions. The location and nature of his injuries, notably a severe rope jerk injury around his waist and a serious head wound, strongly suggested he had suffered a significant fall. Crucially, the pocket camera Irvine was thought to be carrying was not found with Mallory. Adding to the intrigue, a photograph of his wife, Ruth, which Mallory had promised to leave on the summit if he reached it, was missing from his belongings. Did he leave it on top, or was it lost during the fall or elsewhere? Mallory's frozen state, a chilling tableau from 1924 preserved into the modern era, provided some answers but deepened the central question: did they make it? The extreme environment that claimed Mallory and Irvine also highlights the astonishing achievements of those who pushed the boundaries of human endurance there. For decades after the first confirmed ascent in 1953, it was widely believed by doctors and physiologists that climbing Everest without supplemental oxygen was impossible, that the human body simply couldn't survive, let alone function, at such extreme altitudes. Then, in 1978, Reinhold Messner and Peter Hebeler silenced the doubters. In a feat that stunned the mountaineering and medical worlds, they reached the summit of Everest breathing only the thin mountain air. They described the experience as being on the very edge of consciousness, fighting for every step. As if that wasn't enough, Messner returned in 1980 and achieved something even more audacious: a solo ascent of Everest, again without supplemental oxygen, this time during the monsoon season via a new route on the north face. These ascents fundamentally rewrote our understanding of human physiological limits. However, they also underscore the incredibly narrow margin between success and death when operating without bottled oxygen in the death zone, a realm where the body is actively dying. Yet the very mountain where humans proved their incredible endurance is now paradoxically becoming a site of dangerous overcrowding. In recent years, particularly during short weather windows, in the May climbing season, Everest has experienced traffic jams high on the mountain. A photograph taken in May 2019 went viral, showing a long queue of climbers packed shoulder to shoulder on the narrow ridge leading to the summit, waiting their turn to ascend the final steps, including the famous Hillary Step. That season was particularly deadly, with 11 fatalities reported on Everest, many linked to these delays. Waiting in line in the death zone even for an hour or two is incredibly dangerous. It depletes precious supplemental oxygen supplies, increases exposure to extreme cold leading to frostbite, and heightens the risk of altitude sickness worsening. Climbers become exhausted and make poor decisions. What was once a remote individual challenge against nature has, during peak season, become a dangerous bottleneck created by human ambition and the commercialization of the climb. The mountain's own allure is contributing to the peril. This crowding and the intense focus on reaching the summit, sometimes at all costs, has led to deeply troubling ethical questions. One of the most debated incidents occurred in May 2006, involving a British climber named David Sharp. Attempting a solo ascent without supplemental oxygen, Sharp became severely hypothermic and hypoxic high on the northeast ridge, taking shelter in a small rock overhang known as Green Boots Cave, named after the aforementioned body. Over the course of several hours, an estimated 40 climbers passed him on their way up or down from the summit. While some reported interacting with him briefly, believing him to be resting or simply another body, none mounted a full rescue effort. Sharp died alone in the cave. The incident sparked outrage and intense debate within the climbing community and beyond. Was abandoning a fellow climber even in the death zone, where rescue is extraordinarily difficult and risky for the rescuers, morally justifiable? It highlighted the brutal calculus of survival at extreme altitude, where the instinct for self-preservation can clash violently with the impulse to help others. David Sharp's lonely death remains a haunting reminder of the ethical tightrope climber's walk. While the surface of Everest presents these life and death dramas, hidden beneath the ice lies another world entirely, holding clues to the planet's past. Recent explorations, sometimes involving scientists rappelling into deep crevasses, have revealed the existence of extensive ice caves and subglacial cavities beneath Everest's glaciers. These hidden chambers are not just geological curiosities, they are potential treasure troves of scientific data. Within these caves, the ancient ice layers remain undisturbed, preserving a detailed record of past climate conditions. Much like tree rings, ice cores drilled from these protected layers can contain trapped air bubbles, dust particles, pollen, and chemical isotopes that reveal information about historical temperatures, snowfall patterns, atmospheric composition, volcanic eruptions, and even vegetation changes over potentially thousands of years. However, these natural climate archives are now under threat. As global warming accelerates glacier melt from the surface down and potentially from the base up, these unique ice caves are themselves melting, potentially erasing irreplaceable records of Earth's climatic history before we can fully study them. And that melting ice contributes directly to one of the most consistently dangerous sections on the entire standard Everest route, the Khumbu Icefall. Situated between Base Camp and Camp Wayne on the South Col route, the icefall is essentially a frozen, chaotic river of ice, where the massive Khumbu Glacier flows relatively quickly over a steep drop. This movement causes the glacier to fracture into enormous crevasses, some hundreds of feet deep, and towering ice pinnacles called seracs, which can be the size of houses. The entire icefall is constantly shifting, groaning, and collapsing without warning. Climbers must navigate this treacherous maze, often using ladders placed across crevasses and clipping into fixed ropes. It's a terrifying game of Russian roulette. Serac collapses and avalanches triggered from the slopes above are frequent and deadly. The single deadliest day on Everest prior to the 2015 earthquake occurred here in April 2014, when an avalanche swept down onto the icefall route, killing 16 Nepali guides, Sherpas, who were fixing ropes for the season. The Khumbu Icefall remains an objective, unavoidable hazard, a volatile gatekeeper demanding respect and often exacting a heavy toll. Finally, we circle back to Everest's greatest enigma, potentially amplified by recent finds. Did George Mallory and Andrew Irvine reach the summit in 1924, nearly 3 decades before Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay? The discovery of Mallory's body in 1999 provided clues but no definitive answer. The recent find of Irvine's boot in 2024 adds another piece, confirming his location separate from Mallory later in their descent or after a fall, but still doesn't solve the puzzle. The ultimate key likely lies with the vest pocket Kodak VPK camera Irvine was known to be carrying. Experts believe that the film inside, if the camera is ever found and if the extreme cold preserved it sufficiently, might be developable. Imagine the historical rewrite. Images showing Mallory and Irvine on the summit, or perhaps just below it, captured moments before tragedy struck. Theories persist, fueled by circumstantial evidence like Mallory's missing photo of his wife and disputed sightings of the pair high on the mountain on that final day. The possibility that they achieved the ultimate prize, only for their success to be lost to history along with their lives, adds a layer of profound tragedy and enduring mystery to Everest's already complex legacy. The search for that camera continues. So Mount Everest is far more than just the highest point on Earth. It's a place of profound, ongoing discovery. It reveals the deep geological past of our planet, acts as a sensitive barometer for climate change, showcases the extremes of human endurance and folly, preserves historical mysteries in ice, and even bears the marks of our pervasive pollution. From ancient sea creatures at the summit to microplastics in the snow, from thawing bodies to enduring questions about the first ascent, Everest forces us to confront fundamental truths about our world, our history, and ourselves. These 15 discoveries have undeniably changed our perception of the mountain, proving it still holds many secrets. And one can only wonder what else is waiting to be revealed by the shifting ice and rock on the roof of the world.